Have you been hearing all about this Death Note thing that was all around like 10 years ago? And you want to know about it, but you don't want people thinking you're a weeb and you can't read comic books. So, what are you gonna do? You're gonna read this video. Read it? Nope. Watch it! Because you're an American. In America. Volume 1! So there's this death god named Luke. He's chilling in the underworld, but he's bored, so he drops his death note into the human world. It's kind of like when you accidentally, on purpose, drop your notebook by your crush so that you have an excuse to walk over and talk to them. So this guy named Light, not a joke, that's really his name, picks it up. Like the huge nerd that he is, he reads it and finds out that if he writes somebody's name into the notebook, they will die. He doesn't really believe it though, and he thinks it's a hoax. So he decides to write the name of a convenient motorcycle rapist inside the notebook. As in, he's a rapist that also rides a motorcycle, not a guy that rapes motorbikes. Anyway, the scum dies, so Light decides to become a competent Batman. He meets Luke the Death God, a neutral observer that just wants to be entertained and see what a human would do with his notebook. Before too long, the world government... no, not that one. Yeah, that one. Notices that oodles of prisoners are dying of heart attacks, and it's super not a coincidence. So the discount you win 6 Super Detective L on the case. L is an anonymous individual that's basically a less likable version of Sherlock Holmes, renowned for solving incredibly difficult cases. He also has an old British gentleman as his gopher, so he probably likes Batman as well. L immediately deduces that the serial killer murdering criminals is probably Japanese, so they stage an act to prove he's in Japan. Actual super genius Light, who has an IQ around this guy's, falls for it, not only giving away the country he lives in, but also the fact that he lives in the Tokyo area. Light figured this would happen eventually though, so the great chess match between Light and L begins, with each vowing to take out the other. The moronic masses start calling the murderer Killa, derived from the Japanese pronunciation of the English word killer. Instead of just calling him Killer, dumb weebs. Light's father is the detective superintendent of Japan's MPA, so Light uses main character convenience powers to hack into his computer whenever he wants info on the investigation. Light goes all MacGyver on his desk drawer to hide the notebook while a bunch of wusses leave the police because they're afraid of being killed by Killer. At the same time, L is using the FBI to spy on the MPA in secret. Due to plot convenience, Ryuk tells Light that he's being followed, so he starts testing the limits of how he can kill people with the Death Note. After getting a bunch of exposition about the notebook's rules and dark deals for Death God eyes, Light goes on a date. But the date was actually a ruse to learn the identity of Ray Pember, the FBI agent that has been investigating him. Volume 2! After finding out the FBI agent's name, Light successfully death notes him into killing all the other FBI agents in Japan. He fails to take into account the fact that Ray Pember's fiancée was also an FBI agent though, and she plans to go all Silence of the Lambs on Killa for killing her man-meat. Meanwhile, the MPA finds out that they were secretly being investigated by the FBI, and turn on L. L might be a little, but he's our best shot at getting Killa. If you want out, then beat it. If you want to be a secondary character, stay. I'll see who's who when I get back from my vague meeting. There's only 5 of you left? Seriously? Not 5, sir. 6, including you. 8 if we count Elle and Alfred as well. Shut up, Discount Yamazaki. Nobody asked to hear from a bland character like you. How's it even possible to be more bland than Shinpachi? But my name is... Yeah, go play comedy or badminton, you poser. After one more of them quits like a wuss, L meets the 5 donut eaters personally, something he's never had to do before in an investigation. This is the first time meeting L in the open, and it turns out that he's a disgusting weeb that's more Gollum than Smeagol. Even though I'm physically meeting you in person, I won't take any actual risks whatsoever, won't treat you with respect, will screw with your head, and won't even tell you my real name. But... Die for me, pawns! Side characters. So they form a super special awesome secret unit to catch Killa and bring him to justice. The next day, Ray Pember's fiancée is going to give the police crucial information, but Light uses protagonist Ex Machina powers to intercept her and make her commit suicide before she can tell them. L uses his antagonist Ex Machina powers, though, to narrow Killa's identity down to someone in either Light's family or the Deputy Director General's family, so he has their houses illegally bugged with cameras. Light bribes Luke with Apple so that he'll use his spirit powers to find all the cameras. Volume 3! While Luke searches for cameras, Light distracts the people watching through them with softcore porn. After finding out where all the cameras are, Light uses barbecue chips to stealthily murder more criminals. They eventually take out all the cameras, but the place might still be bugged, and Light enters college. At the entrance ceremony, L reveals himself to Light, but Light isn't sure if he's telling the truth or not, and even if he was, he can't do anything to kill him. So they pretend to be bros and play tennis together. Meanwhile, a scumbag TV guy gets a letter and tapes from someone claiming to be Kita. A whole bunch of crap goes down when the second Kita broadcasts videos, and it turns out this Kita only needs a face to kill. Elle is pretty sure there are two Kitas now, and the second one is Misa, a Japanese Avril Lavigne that made a deal to have the eyes of a death god. Volume 4! Elle wants to trick the second Kita with a fake message, so he brings Light into the task force. The real Kita pretends to be fake Kita to send a trick message to the second Kita. The second Kita falls for the message and ends up giving clues away in her reply video. Light goes to where the second Kita is supposed to be, but Misa just peeps him instead. After stupidly sending another message to the police, she ends up showing up to his house uninvited. Hi, I'm Misa. I'm here to see Light, who's definitely not Kita. Hail Kita! I'm a huge fan! Also, this is Lim, a death god! Oh, great Kita! You're Misa's savior! Oh no, she's talking in third person. She's retarded, poor girl. Wait, let Misa be your slave! Sure, whatever. Misa ends up getting Hannibal Lectered, though, after Elle arrests her on suspicion of being the second Kita.
Yagami Light, if you don't save Misa, I'll kill you.
Fine, I'll come up with an elaborate plan. So Light lets himself get captured. Volume 5! After a week in confinement, Light gives up all memories of ever possessing the Death Note. Then during the second week, the killings start again, so Elle has to begrudgingly release Light and Misa. But only after a totally illegal act where Light's dad shoves a gun in his face. Even though he's been cleared, Elle has an S&M thing, so he handcuffs himself to Light after watching that one episode of Gintama. Let Misa be handcuffed to Light too! Back off my man! One of the Death Notes is now in the hands of some corporate schmucks who are using it to get rid of their competition. It's pretty boring, but then Light punches Elle and it's awesome again. Until the next panel anyway, when inhuman gnome Elle that only eats junk food somehow manages to be on equal footing with a top police officer's son that's super fit and definitely trained in self-defense. The new Kita is bribing the government, so the task force goes solo. Except for this random guy with a punch perm, he leaves like a wuss. Elle calls in these two random foreigners, but they don't actually do anything. Then Discount Yamazaki spies on the corporate Kita board meeting, but he pulls out that one guy from Naruto. Using the power of pedophilia, they get the corporate guys to come to headquarters and end up secretly getting their identities. Volume 6! Elle separates from the task force over a difference of opinion about how to handle the corporate Kita situation. So instead, he hatches a plan involving Misa. When she's executing the plan, though, Lem touches her with the notebook so they can talk again. The Death God exposits and helps Misa figure out which corporate scum is the new Kita. Even though she can't tell Light or anybody else who the new Kita is, she sneaks off to meet him anyway. She gets him to admit on recording that he's Kita, and takes it back to the task force. They come up with a plan to catch corporate Kita's method of murder, using everybody's best friend, TV. Successfully entrapping him, a high-speed chase ensues. Light and Elle take a helicopter as the police chase corporate Kita. You know, because this gross goblin posing as a human being is totally a trained pilot in addition to being autistic Sherlock Holmes. When corporate Kita fails at Kitaing, he straight up pulls a gun while surrounded by elite marksmen. After being surrounded by police, corporate Kita's car is taken out by Alfred. Yes, that's right, the random British old man butler was also a former sniper or some crap. Volume 7! As corporate Kita is arrested, random cops start touching the Death Note and start seeing them. Elle finally gets his hands on the Death Note as well. After Elle stupidly lets Light touch it, he regains all his memories about the Death Note. There's a flashback explaining how this is all part of Light's master plan. Using a secret scrap of the Death Note hidden in his watch, Light kills corporate Kita so that ownership of the Death Note reverts back to him. Using fake rules to clear Misa and himself of suspicion, Light has Misa dig up the other Death Note. After getting her memories of the Death Note back, Misa and Luke eat some fruit together before she makes the Death God eye trade again. Light has Misa start killing criminals immediately, knowing that it will make her a suspect again. Realizing that the only way to save Misa is to kill Elle, and therefore herself, Lem writes his real name into her Death Note. An overachiever, Lem also writes Alfred's name into the notebook too. As Elle dies, Light and Elle have a dramatic stare-off. After Elle's death, Light takes over his systems and becomes the new Elle in secret, with the task force base being his new home. Misa moves in with him, and Light uses mass murder to try and create his ideal utopia. And that's the end! Nothing else happens after this. Nothing else.